Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where it is my distinct pleasure to talk with leaders, founders of food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better and that are shaping the future of food and beverage. So before we jump into today's conversation, I'd like to thank Firebelly Marketing. Firebelly helps food and beverage brands grow by helping them with their story, with awareness and sales support. And so it's all about building awareness, earning trust, whether you're launching into retail, growing e-commerce, or building a loyal community. Firebelly can help create stories that people remember and products people buy. So let's dive in. Today's guest is someone who I've known for about a year and a half and whose work I've genuinely admired, and whose product is now interwoven into my life. Salt is one of the oldest ingredients in human history. And for those of you that listen to the show, you know we had Mark Bitterman on a couple of years ago. And so our guest today, Björn Steinar, has managed to make salt feel new again for so many people, including me. As the founder of Saltverk, he's revived centuries-old Icelandic salt-making traditions using geothermal energy, creating one of the most distinctive premium food brands in the world. Bjorn, I'm so excited. We've been trying to schedule this for a while. I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, and great to be on the show. Looking forward to chat.
Yeah. So, I mean, first I have to admit, when you kind of changed my life, because I met you last year and you gave me the samples, and I was like, I can't be satisfied with the samples. I got to have my own salt. And so I bought the 4-pack, and then I bought another salt pack, a 4-pack, and I've gifted it to friends. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the interview, what is something now? Saltworks is on my counter on a regular basis. What is something that's always on your kitchen counter?
Good question. I mean, I definitely like to do cooking in my own kitchen, and a good salt. I mean, our flaky sea salt is what I use every day in my kitchen, and then goes with it high quality olive oil and pepper, I guess.
Yes, wonderful answer. Yes, salt and pepper and olive oil. We can just live on those. So when you were thinking about doing all this, how did you come up with the idea for Saltverk, and why salt?
So a good question. So I'm an engineer background. And I lived in Copenhagen for 10 years, but I'm native Icelandic, and there were a lot of things going on back when we were starting. So I started the business 15 years ago. There were a lot of things going on in different processes. For example, within coffee, microbreweries doing third generation, both coffee places and microbreweries in Copenhagen, and obviously the new Nordic food movement with restaurants such as Noma bringing forward, looking at the traditions of in Scandinavia. And here back in Iceland, we have a lot of geothermal energy, and the idea comes about thinking about how can we utilize this energy in making a product. And we're an island. We've had to live off the sea, live off. I mean, we are in Iceland. We've throughout centuries went out. We're fishermen hunting cod. That was one of Iceland's first export. And with that, salt was needed. So it's a tradition that had been around for a long time, but there was no one making salt in Iceland. And this sort of when I came across this, looking of what you could use the geothermal energy to make, then salt became quite interesting, fascinating for me. So I just started researching how it was made. Actually read or bought. One of the first things I did was buying Mark Bitterman's book, and he was actually one of our first export customers. Reached out to him, learned about the different methods of salt production in the world, and from there, I guess the snowball started running.
That's amazing. Let me ask you this. What did your friends and family say when you first told them I'm gonna make salt and sell it.
I mean, I guess many people thought it was kind of a crazy idea. It didn't make any sense. But there were certainly, I mean, within my closest circle, my dad's an engineer. He came early on, supporting the project, trying to figure out, and I think the process. The thing is, it's a relative. You're evaporating seawater, and with that, it's simple chemistry. So it's a relatively straightforward and simple process. What you see is what you get. It's just we're evaporating seawater, and we'll crystallize salt from that. At the same time, it's been a very complicated process to use the geothermal energy, working with nature, and with all of that. So I guess I get within my closest circle, my wife and my closest family, they really, I guess, saw the fire that ignited within me to sort of, make something of this, and fully supported it.
That's amazing. And one of the things I love about the brand is, I mean, the packaging, everything, the way that, I mean, the salt crystals are bigger. The varietals that you offer, for example, I used the thyme last night with a couple of big New York strips. All I did was put some olive oil on it and the salt. And you made me a hero with my wife and son. So they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And all it was the Arctic thyme salt. So one of the things I love about the other thing I love is the fact that it kind of is synonymous with Iceland now. It's like, there's not a lot of products that can say that they're synonymous with the country. But do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and that we've definitely constrained ourselves to that. I mean, the raw material and what we're producing, it's up in the northwest of Iceland. It is just working with Icelandic nature, and then when we do, so, for example, you mentioned the Arctic thyme salt. It's a wild thyme that only grows in Iceland, Faroe Island, and Greenland. So it's like a very local product. And the same goes with when we make a product with our seaweed that is locally harvested. And we constrain ourselves within solely making products that are Icelandic origin, and that is the clean origin story is essentially what we built the business on.
Yeah, I mean, and what's it? I guess another question is, as a Icelander, how do you think that Icelandic business is run differently than business in other places, or is that maybe more of a Nordic thing?
I mean, we're definitely to some extent influenced by Nordic, how Nordic and Scandinavian businesses are run, but there are definitely also some very much Icelandic things to it. Iceland is a very small country. I mean, the population is only approximately 400,000 people in the whole country, and with that, there comes the fact that, I mean, everything is it's easy to sort of connect to the next person. Everyone, you always know someone. Everything is not many degrees away from you, and I guess also there's not these large hierarchy organization in any context here in Iceland. So there's it's a flat organization. We come fishermen and farmers only a few generations ago. So it's definitely with that comes many very specific Icelandic traits that foreigners would see.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess the other question is, when it comes to the craftsmanship that it takes to, and the local traditions. I mean, say a little bit about all that and your philosophy. And I have a follow-up question about scaling, but let's start there.
Absolutely. I mean, from the very first day, and what intrigued me, initially, and as I started the business, and it was only me, it was from making the product and delivering it to the customer. and that has very much and the initial job titles salt maker, which then everyone carried, and that has from that point on been very much that we want to. I mean, one of the most pleasures I have is simply holding the product in my hand. We're just taking a raw material, and then we have the product that we're making ourselves, and then we also pride ourselves in knowing where the product goes, knowing the end customer, and we maintained that as we scaled up to basically know where, to whom we're selling to, and trying to understand our customers, trying to understand who it is that using the product, and telling the story about the product. So that's been very important, essentially from day one, where I was harvesting the salt, and I also took it to the first store, and so essentially delivering it. Obviously, I'm not doing that all of that today, but it's still within our organization. And when we go to trade shows, etc., we embody exactly that philosophy throughout the organization.
And I mean, your values are both admirable and simple. It's purity, sustainability, and quality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I mean, from day one, it's also been full transparency. What you see is what you get, and we've been open. Our production site has been open for visitors from day one, and we get a lot of visitors in the summer season to our facility, and we have a big window at the production where we have the salt pans, so you just can see inside where we're making the products, and we actually have also tours in summer. This has just been like that from day one, having full transparency of what you see is what you get. We're pumping seawater using geothermal energy, with that making salt, nothing added, nothing taken away.
That's amazing. And I know that one of the things that I read about was that not only all the other things we talked about, but also it is actually some of the cleanest seawater imaginable because of where you're based and how the water moves through the life cycle of getting to the brine part.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. So our production, I'm located here now in our headquarters in Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland. Our production, the location of the production we chose where we would have access to geothermal energy close to the sea. And it's located up in the northwestern part. It's 4 hours north of here. Essentially what you have there and around is only wildlife, whales, seals. There's probably about 80 to 100 miles to the next small town. It's just out in the nature. That's where the location of the production is. And there we have access to seawater, which it's essentially the North Atlantic, Greenlandic Sea. And with that, no heavy industry being anywhere in the surroundings than pollutants within the seawater we're pumping are among the lowest you'll be able to find.
That's amazing. And now that you're growing and the US market is becoming, your current customers want more, and you're growing, dare I say, organically, what are you focused on protecting in terms of the vision?
I mean, as we grow, we've maintained, we've grown organically, and we wanted to grow just step by step, knowing our partners, knowing who we're doing business with, and keeping intact that very same philosophy that even as we add some salt pans, then it is always going to be based on the quality of the product, keeping the exact same production process, which is using the geothermal energy, using just the nature to produce the product, and and not adding any industrialization introducing any of that into our processes. So keeping the process exactly the same, obviously evolving the way that we made salt for 15 years, so started 15 years ago. you're always learning about the process. It's chemistry. It's learning about the crystallization, and there are some fluctuations in simply the minerals that will be in the seawater. There's fluctuation in the heat that we get from the geothermal source. So there's a lot of constraints that we work within. It's not something that an engineer can put within an Excel sheet. It's nature. So continuing to work with nature, just as we, but scaling within, scaling within what nature allows us. That's essentially, I think, what our philosophy will always be about.
And I guess I've recognized it, but I also know that I tend to get very excited and I want to know the backstory. Do customers recognize? I mean, you meet them, they're like, hey, we read about it. What kind of reactions do you get from customers?
Absolutely. I mean, as we've, I've been going to trade shows. I've probably been traveling to trade shows, and I lost the count, but probably up to 60 or 70 trade shows since I started the business in Europe, in the US, locally here in Iceland. They're also just initially going to farmer markets, meeting the end consumer, which is not because of the sales you generate, but because of the conversation you're able to have. A very important part of building what we do. What we've learned and seen as continuing to tell the story of the full transparency. What you see is what you get. What we see at trade shows in the US, I mean, just in the last year, is people are starting to come back to our booth, remembering the small slide tins they got of salt, asking if they can get another slide tin of the salt. And I think we handed out somewhere, at Expo West this year, I think we handed out somewhere between 10 and 15,000 slide tins of our salt, and a lot of people coming, asking for more. For us, it's just a confirmation of that, people are noticing what we're doing and intrigued by it, and that we managed to tell the story, and it's spreading word by word, mouth by mouth.
It's interesting because I found it in Indianapolis at a small kind of artisan store on the north side of it called Artisanos. And when I said, oh my God, I know this salt, I want to buy this. And the owner was so excited because I don't know how they came in contact with you. And he was like, this is our best salt. You have to buy it. You will not be disappointed. And so, yeah, and that's how I got into it, is with one of the little tins. Mm-hmm. And so that's really interesting. In your mind, I guess this is an interesting question. It is salt, which is one of the oldest products in the world, right? Oldest enhancements or accoutrements, right? It's been there. I mean, people used to go to war over salt. Animals fight over salt. I mean, they're finding the salt, to lick the salt. Is salt in your mind, is Saltworks a luxury product? Is it a premium product? It is a local product, or is it all of the above?
A good question. I wouldn't, we don't, we wouldn't want to define us specifically. We don't go to market as being a luxury product. It is artisan, hand harvested. What you see is what you get product, and with that, just as we scale up, we want it to be accessible for consumers. But just given the context of how it is produced, what goes into producing it, it certainly has a certain premium over other products. But when you look into it, and as a consumer, then this is not, you only use, a jar of our products. And as we've been scaling up, we introduced a pouch last year at a better price per ounce. So, our approach is that as we're able to scale up our production, we want to make our product more accessible to consumers. Obviously, it's hand harvested and it is produced with use of geothermal energy. What you see is what you get. We're not able to match something that is industrially produced, but for the quality that you get, I think it is, our aim is to have it fairly priced.
Yeah, I mean, I've not come across a lot of products that have so many unique factors. I mean, the geothermal production, it's zero carbon. Okay, so maybe consumers don't care about that, but some do. the fact that it's untouched Arctic seawater. You have the local Icelandic slant on things where you're using, Nordic botanicals and methods. But I even think, and I want to ask you this because I'm obviously have not had as much experience as you, but even the way the crystals come across in the little bottles seem to be different. They seem to be flaky and larger than what you see in most salts.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and that is that's part of what we've aimed at, with the salt makers. There's so many variables that get into how you get to the crystals that we have. It is the mineral composition that comes from the seawater, and that there's some fluctuation in that. Then it's also the temperature that we heat it up to at our pan, and that's a continuous. It's as I said, it's simple, but then when you dive into it, it's so complicated, and that's what sort of makes it ever interesting. And I enjoy that so much to see that at our where we're making the product at our production.
Yeah. And I mean, so what about this then as a follow-up question is you don't really have to sound elitist with any of these things, right? Because these are all kind of like they're all they're not little, but they're all individual points that when you come together, it's like, wow, this is literally one of the most unique salts in the world. When you're trying new salts, like what's a salt that you've tried lately or that you have tried at some point that you think, wow, this is really interesting salt?
Mhm. Uh, I mean, there are many great artisanally made salts out there. I've obviously, and that one of the first things I did. Fleur de sel has a very distinctive, or some of the fleur de sel have a very distinctive taste profile and melts in your mouth. Then I actually came across or tasted at a restaurant recently Japanese salts that are made from deep seawater. Had a very interesting mineral profile. So and then there are other flaky sea salt producers. Which I mean, we definitely admire what they're doing. Jacobson Salt from the U.S., Portland, Nether's Bay, which are making flaky sea salt, and started not so long ago, just as us. These are some of the products. So I think some Japanese, some French. I mean, artisanally made salts where you're keeping the minerals from the seawater essentially, and not letting industrial process dictate what the end product is generally what I would like.
That's awesome. I just recently, in the last couple of weeks, got to try salt in Peru from the Moray mines on the other side of the mountain. And interesting that nobody could answer the question is when did it start? Because there's a spring that comes out and it's all community owned, which is really interesting. Really interesting. So another question for you. Okay, this one is a fun question. You lived in Copenhagen for a while. Did you ever go to Noma, and what were your thoughts?
So yes, I lived in Copenhagen for over 10 years. So I went to Noma. Probably the first time was in I think 2012, 13, around that, in their initial location. And I mean, it's been amazing what they've did for Nordic cuisine and what they did for Copenhagen in their first 10 or 15 years, and how they've developed and continued to develop the restaurants. I also went to their new location. So I think I went to the initial location 2 or 3 times. Then I went to their new location maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And I mean, amazing restaurant, and amazing what they've accomplished and done for global food cuisine. I mean, they've defined it on so many parameters.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so shifting the focus a little bit to Bjorn the man. Bjorn, how do you take care of yourself? What's your exercise regimen? Are you specific about foods or hydration, sleep?
So I mean, I obviously as a kid I was training football or soccer, and in recent years I tried to I've been training CrossFit, and I try to do that 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes it gets a bit hectic getting it into the schedule when you're traveling a lot. But when I'm here, especially when I'm here in Reykjavik, I do really get a lot. I mean, this morning having a CrossFit training in the morning is amazing for me. And then I love doing saunas, cold plunge, and in Iceland we have, I mean, and in Scandinavia we have a lot of culture for saunas. And going to the hot tub. So enjoying the geothermal hot water in a hot tub is amazing, and that's something that really gives me energy. Then being in the countryside, being in my summer house, recharging is something that I enjoy. But then I also really enjoy the city life. I live in the city center here of Reykjavik. I really love traveling in the US, going to trade shows. Then I really love going to restaurants, exploring new cultures, testing out new things. It's a privilege if you ask me to travel because of what you do, and taking the slight tin of salt that I have with me, and opening new doors, meeting new people every week is just something that I'm really privileged to be able to do.
That's amazing. And I love the fact that you're taking advantage of the travel to experience local culture and also bring salt to people. What's one thing that you're better at today than you were when you started Saltworks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely better at trusting my gut, trusting my instinct. I've trained myself a lot in that. And then I'm also better at dealing with uncertainty, dealing with setbacks. It's interesting, and building up a business. Then and I had an investor early on, and just after he deposited the initial amount into our accounts, he said everything that can fail will fail, but that's all right. We're still going to make it a success. And these words are very true. I mean, everything that sort of you tested in production, etc. Everything has at some point failed, but that's all right if you figure out a way to deal with it and solve it. And as building up a business, as you scale it up, you start to enjoy getting those challenges and solving them. Always more determined and sure that they won't bust you.
Yeah. That's a fascinating answer, and really I think sums it up, because you don't know what nonsense is going to come your way, and everything's fine. And I actually say this to people all the time, is when everything's fine, you don't, whether it's your marriage or your friendship or your job or client relationship or traveling on vacation, when everything is good, everything is great, but you don't really know what you're dealing with till something goes wrong. That's when you see who people are on the inside. That's how you learn new places. That's how you learn new things. So thank you so much for that insightful answer. Okay, last question about leadership. What's one misconception that people have about being a founder?
Um, I guess thinking that you need to know the answer to everything. It is okay to not know something. It's okay to essentially admit it. For me, it's more about being curious, trying to learn, wanting to understand whatever it is that you're dealing with, and from there you can get to a place where you understand it, even though you don't know it right now.
Great. Okay, so rapid fire round. Okay, Björn. So no long answers. Just you have to pick. You have to pick instinctively. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite Icelandic meal?
Fish.
Okay. Favorite hidden place in Iceland?
So that's going to be the geothermal pool in the fjord next to our production. Heydalur.
Favorite cookbook?
It's going to be a Slipperin cookbook from my friend Gisli Matt.
Okay, well, I'm going to follow up with you on that one. A company outside of food that you admire?
Patagonia.
Okay. If you were not making salt, what would you be most likely doing?
I'd be at a boring corporate job.
One ingredient that every home cook underestimates.
That would be your salt.
I set you up for that one. All right. Well, before we wrap up, where can people buy the product? Also, is there anything exciting coming up that you wanted to tell people about?
I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot of scales within the US market. Our largest and sort of most accessible way of getting the product in the US is on Amazon. Then we recently or earlier this year launched on iHerb, which made it accessible to 180 countries around the world. But then we have a lot of retail launches coming up in the US later this year, and our product is also coming in larger sizes, making it even more accessible to home chefs. Can't announce exactly where right now, but there's a lot of things in progress.
Okay, awesome. And the website is Saltverk with a V, saltverk.com. And
exactly.
People can buy on the website too.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so I would strongly suggest to anyone listening that you get yourself a box or a bottle of Saltverk. And I think that my conclusion is that when you have Björn's product, you experience a lot more than just salt. You're experiencing culture, you're experiencing the ocean, you're experiencing one of the oldest experiences in the world with salt. So I highly encourage you to go check out saltverk.com. And Björn, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. As someone who's admired you and Saltverk for so long, it's been a real pleasure hearing the story behind the brand and you sharing not only the journey of building the brand, but the philosophy that has made it really special for me. And thank you to everyone listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, once again, check out saltverk.com. Please subscribe, leave a review, share it with someone you know. And thank you once again to Björn. Any last words for people?
So just thanks a lot for listening, and go get the salt at saltverk.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Björn. And everyone, you've been listening to the Firebelly Social Show, where I get to chat with leaders of mission-driven food and beverage companies. And thank you to Firebelly Marketing for making this possible. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.